Agreed to, and I call the member for Warringah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's no doubt that waste and plastics is a huge problem that we have in Australia. It is everywhere, and it is we need to do more. At every school I visit, in every corner of Warringah, and I have no doubt of Australia, it is the number one waste. It is always front of mind, and it worries my constituents very much. It really is no surprise that so many are concerned because global waste crisis that we have. Waste forms islands in the Pacific. It's found in the vulnerable creatures. A study published last week found that over 1,550 wildlife species have eaten plastic. It's also found in our food, on top of our mountains, on our coasts. It's everywhere. And in this pandemic, we have made it worse. It hasn't helped. In 2019, the world was poised to improve our record. We were poised to shift away from single-use plastics. Jurisdictions had plastic bans coming in. But unfortunately, a lot of those have been offset by the pandemic, which has forced many to pause those initiatives. And we've seen a vast surge in use of single-use items and plastics. With that disruption, we've seen disposable personal protective equipment like masks, gloves, gowns protect against the spread of the virus. These are plastics, and whilst they're playing an important role in helping our frontline workers and communities to ward off the virus, they're having a very negative effect on our environment. Now is the time to future-proof our systems to deal with future influxes of plastics, which are likely to happen again and again in line with our national circular economy goals. The Australian Council of Recycling has said that household waste production and recycling contamination has increased despite growing awareness, and business and commercial recycling has decreased. These are worrying trends, and I would ask the government, where is our national campaign on encouraging people whilst they are at home in this pandemic to do something about their own personal use? Waste is ending up in the environment, clogging up waterways, sewage systems, beach, choking animals. If we continue like this, the world adheres, we really have, the amount of use is just incredible, the amount of plastics that are now happening. The risks of the masks at the moment, unfortunately, we're seeing them all over our environment. We've seen, unfortunately, also a growth in use of takeaway because of, for example, here in Warringah, we're all in lockdown, and packaging of foods, drinks, groceries, online shopping. Too often plastics are still what is being used. We need to make sure that stops, and that can only really stop by behaviour change, which requires information campaigns, but it also requires legislation. It requires legislation to ensure we stop that single-use. We need to improve infrastructure to promote circularity, investing in research and development, corporate action, government policy. So I call on the government. Wow. Instead of coming to the House always to self-congratulate itself and make sure that it's, claiming big wins, when really we are not even scratching the surface of what really needs to be done. We need to see leadership, and this is a problem that actually we can't delay. We need to manage that surge in waste, and I would say after the last 18 months with COVID, the surge in PPE waste as well. We need dedicated programs for this kind of waste, these are the kind of things that the government really should be focusing and funding. What we also need to see is addressing the broader problems of environmental management and protection, because at the end of the day, this will all come back and compound one another. But what I am proud to say is here in Warringah, we have great progress being made. We have Ocean Action Pod, which is seeking to raise awareness of plastics in our ocean and the waste build up in those areas. What we've also got is I've implemented the Roadmap to Zero, which is implementing awareness, education, and providing individuals, businesses and schools to access how they can reduce their waste. We have great leadership in the electorate with companies like Warnup who are recycling their school uniforms, with companies like Blocktex who are recovering polyester and cellulose from textiles and clothing. They're diverting textiles from landfill. They use them in a more sustainable manner. We have so many companies leading the way. Government needs to do.
The member's time has concluded. The question is that the motion be agreed to, and I call the member for